Howdy-ho, Andrew, aka Calfear here. Welcome to the Onion Buns and welcome to my Sunday gaming videos. I know, boring titles, but whatever. So, there's actually some rumors. I don't touch on rumors a lot, be it on my Let's Talk Oilers Talk, or anything. I'm not a rumor guy, but if you've watched my previous videos, I have some concerns about The Witcher 4 because it doesn't make any sense to me. Ciri is not a Witcher, no matter what they say. If you go by the lore by Andrzej Sapkowski, only boys can become Witchers. Only boys can go through the trial and the mutations, and only a few of them survive. So by the canon and by the lore of the books, by the creator, females cannot be Witchers. So right off the bat, you got Ciri, they're saying she's a Witcher. Well, that flies in the face of the lore, the canon. And honestly, I've had about enough of Hollywood and game studios doing this. I just keep screaming it is respect the lore, respect the canon. But so this is what we know is Ciri is a Witcher, but we don't know why she's a Witcher, what happened, like what explanation they're giving for this to happen, or blah, 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 blah. The only thing we really know is some of the activists that have got other studios in trouble have been engaged by CD Projekt Red. So a fair amount of people just assumed that's what was happening, is they were doing the gender bending stuff to suit the activists, and the hell with the fans and the canon. So, you can't blame anyone after seeing, well, what Netflix did to The Witcher. As we're talking about The Witcher, I mean, that's just, what they did is horrendous. And same with Amazon for Wheel of Time, or, well, they call it Rings of Power. I call it Rings of Galadriel. But yeah, so we've seen development companies, gaming development companies, Hollywood studios all fall under this whole special interest activism mind screw. And when I heard that Ciri was going to be a Witcher in Witcher 4, that, I got to be honest, that's exactly what I chalked it up to be. Just that simple, and, I wasn't sold out. I'm still not sold out by it at launch. We'll have to see. I love Witcher 1, 2, and 3, but I won't finance these companies that are doing this crap. So anyway, lo and behold, something out of the blue came out. There is a rumor, I shouldn't say they are coming out because it's not validated, it's not verified. There is a rumor that there's going to be another DLC this year, 2026, for The Witcher 3. Now, next to Phantom Liberty, which was it was immaculate. I consider Heart of Stone and Blood of Wine to be the best expansions ever made, and both of those were made for The Witcher 3. So there's a rumor coming out that they're coming out with another full-sized expansion for The Witcher 3, which will lead into The Witcher 4. And might, please note, I'm saying might, I'm not saying it will. Again, nothing is officially verified at this point, but might explain, at least in CD Projekt Red's universe, how Ciri becomes a Witcher. And while I might not agree with that, that's probably the best way to handle it if they're doing that. Like, let's be honest, at least they're going to give a reason. They're not just going to do what Netflix did, is called The Witcher, but really it's the sorceresses. The Witcher plays a backdrop, so at least they're going to, if they do it this way, again, then at least they're explaining why they're doing it this way. I still don't think it needs to happen. I'm not talking about the expansion. I would welcome an expansion, full-heartedly. I would even replay The Witcher 3 for like the 10th time once I know an expansion's coming out for sure. I love that game. I consider it the weakest of the 3 games, but I still love that game. But yeah, it's, if they come out with an expansion for The Witcher 3, yeah, sign me up. I'm all in. I'm right there. I got bells on. Doot, doot. So anyway, a bunch of videos came out that were talking about this and how it came to be, and so I found a new channel to run a react video off of because, I don't want to keep doing Mr. Maddie and Mr. Halton because, I am not against react videos, obviously, but at the same time, they take the time to make these videos. So if a channel is doing a react video, one, they have to make sure they have something to say. Like, if you notice on my react videos, I am not one of these people that hits play and goes, or lights up and go, oh man, I'm so stoned, I gotta go take a nap. I don't do that. If I'm doing a React video, I actually have something to add, to say, but I don't, even saying that, I don't want to keep doing the same people over and over because it's not fair to them. At least in my mind. Maybe I'm out to lunch and I'm deluding myself here because I don't get big plays anyway, so it's not like I'm stealing anything from them. But still, I firmly believe you spread it around and you always give credit to the person that you're doing the React video on. So you always notice, I always mention it in the videos that you will see the link to their channel in the description. So yeah. So anyway, how about we get started? Because this guy who is this again? This is Touzo Gamers, Touzo Gamers. So I'm going to run his video and I will jump in when I have something to say. And he goes through everything, how this came to be, how, like, there's some people on Reddit doing some really deep digging here that I don't think most people are ever going to bother to do. So yeah, so anyway, let's get started on that.
Yo, so Witcher 3 might have just gotten a huge leak for a brand new expansion coming in 2026. And if what we're seeing is legit, we could be getting an official reveal super soon. Ever since the next-gen update dropped back in 2022, CD Projekt Red has been pretty quiet about Wild Hunt stuff. They've mostly been focused on the whole Polaris project. But all this sudden activity, it just flipped everything on its head. This isn't some random 4chan nonsense or like my uncle works at Nintendo type stuff. This is actually legit. Someone found something real on the official Witcher YouTube channel. So basically, if you go check out their playlists right now, the Witcher 3 playlist got updated for the first time in forever. But here's the thing that's got everybody hyped. Some folks over on Reddit noticed the video count is off. Like, it says there's more videos than you can actually see. And if you know how YouTube works, that pretty much means there's a private video just sitting there, ready to drop. Alright, so we're gonna break all of this down for you guys. This could actually be the thing that connects the old games to the new saga they've been working on. So yeah, timestamps are in the description if you want to skip around, but let's just get into it. So you're probably like, okay, where did all this even come from? What kicked this whole thing off? So basically, there was this Reddit thread that blew up over the weekend. Some dude noticed the official Witcher 3 playlist had an updated tag on it out of nowhere. And if you don't really know how YouTube works behind the scenes, here's the deal. When a channel uploads a video and sets it to private or unlisted and throws it in a playlist, the last updated date changes. But the video count you see, that stays the same until they actually make it public. This is literally the exact same thing that happened right before they dropped the Phantom Liberty trailer for Cyberpunk. They uploaded the trailer like days early, the playlist got updated, people lost their minds, and then bam, trailer dropped at the showcase. So seeing this happen for a game that's supposedly done, that's kind of a big deal. Like, it's got me super hyped that we might get one last adventure with Geralt.
Yeah, so as I said already, I would be over the moon for that. I completely enjoyed The Witcher 3. As I said, I feel it was the weakest of the three games story-wise, but graphically, it was amazing. I didn't like the combat, to be honest. You know, and I felt number one was the best story of the three games. You can argue with me, you can disagree with me. I find a lot of the modern day gamers, they judge storytelling off of graphics. Whereas I started way back in the late 80s, so I'm used to like EGA graphics and that. So graphics have never been the biggest draw to me, because back then I had to use my imagination. You couldn't draw it out. Like, you know, like take a look at Yennefer here. Like, I mean, I wish the TV show had a Yennefer that attractive. Anyway, that's a different topic. But yeah, I loved, like, Heart of Stone and Blood of Wine were spectacular expansions. To me, Heart of Stone is number 2 and Blood of Wine is number 3 for best expansions ever made. Number 1 is Phantom Liberty for CD Projekt Red. Just unbelievable, blows everyone else out of the water. You know, there's just no running. But Heart of Stone, oh my God, was the storytelling good in Heart of Stone. I felt in Blood of Wine, the storytelling was not as good, but it was so much bigger that the sheer scope of it and the imagery made up the difference, because Heart of Stone took place in the Witcher 3 map. They didn't create new maps for it. They didn't create new characters. Well, they created new characters, but they didn't, you know what I mean? Like, they didn't create new environments and everything. Whereas Blood of Wine was completely separate, but huge. Whereas Heart of Stone took place inside of, like, if you played The Witcher 3 front to finish before Heart of Stone, you played with this area. And then Heart of Stone came out, and suddenly there was all these new buildings and everything in this existing area. So it was all story more than anything else. So yeah, I have full faith they'll come out with a spectacular expansion if it's true. If it's true. And I shake my head at these people on Reddit. It's like, oh, I noticed this and this and that. I'm like, who notices that stuff? I turn 60 next month. Maybe that's why I don't notice this sort of stuff. Maybe I did back when I was in my 20s. But it's just like, who notices that? Like, I do YouTube. I know exactly what he's talking about. You schedule a video. You say this time and this date is when this video goes public. Okay. And it sits there. And so I know exactly what he's talking about. But still, even on my own channel, I don't notice that. And once I've scheduled it, it's out of sight, out of mind. So, yeah. A lot of people are a lot more nitpicky than me on this. And it's amazing what they come up with.
Or hey, maybe it's someone else, who knows? But either way, something before we jump into the new saga would be awesome. Now look, people have been talking about a Witcher 3.5 or like a standalone expansion for a minute now. Insiders have been saying CDPR wants to fill in that gap between Blood and Wine and Witcher 4, which probably isn't coming out until like 2027 or even later. And honestly, I'm kind of buying it. I really do think we're gonna see something soon, maybe even this May. And
like I said at the start of this video, that would be the best case scenario, because what they're doing with Ciri does not match the canon by Sapkowski, and there's no way to spin that. The two do not mesh with what we know about Ciri in The Witcher 4. So the best case scenario they can do is come out with a expansion that addresses why they are saying Ciri is a Witcher. And I mean, there's numerous ways they can approach that. How they decide to is up to them. But I think that would be the best solution for them. Because if they just come out with The Witcher 4 and Ciri's going to be in a Witcher, there's going to be some blowback for that, regardless. Even with an expansion that explains it, there's still going to be some blowback because it goes against the written canon. But if they can minimize the blowback, that is in their best interest. And I think that's what this would do, if this is correct, is if they can tell an expansion story, and it's a good expansion story, and it explains how Ciri becomes a Witcher, that will minimize the blowback. It won't erase it. There's still going to be people that are going to be, no, that's not canon. But for those fence sitters, this will push them to CD Projekt side rather than push them to the you're breaking canon side. And let's be honest, I mentioned this at the start too. With products like The Witcher on Netflix, Wheel of Time on Amazon, Rings of Galadriel on Amazon, Yaski, the Black Samurai, with all the race switching, gender switching, Veilguard pushing, I'm non-binary. In a world where non-binary doesn't exist, but I'm non-binary. Yeah, people are fed up with this stuff. They really are. So you're going to get blowback when you enter that realm. So it would be in their best interest to, at least in their product range, explain it. And it's for that reason I tend to think this might be legitimate, because it makes sense for good business practice.
Like, just think about this from a business angle for a sec. CD Projekt knows Polaris is taking forever. They switched over to Unreal Engine 5, they're building everything from scratch basically, and they really can't afford another Cyberpunk launch disaster. They need time. But at the same time, they also need money coming in, and they gotta keep Witcher in people's heads, So a smaller expansion for Witcher 3 using all the Red Engine stuff they already have? Dude, that's like a perfect situation. Low risk, high reward, keeps the fans happy while they're cooking up the next big game. Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting. The update wasn't just on the Witcher 3 playlist. People also noticed some activity on the Witcher 4 playlist too, and I have no idea what that means honestly. Maybe a double reveal, like a teaser for the expansion that ends with a title card for the new game or something? So that brings up the big question, right? What would this expansion even be about? Like, why go back to a game from 2015? And okay, you gotta put your tinfoil hat on with me for a second here. We all know Geralt's story got wrapped up pretty nicely in Blood and Wine. Dude's just vibing at Corvo Bianco, drinking wine, living the retired life. So like, why would they pull him back in? But here's the thing that's really interesting though. There's been all these leaks floating around about Ciri. People have been speculating for years that if we got any kind of bridge content, it would be about her. And if you remember how the main game ends, I won't spoil it too much, but there's endings where Ciri becomes a Witcher. So imagine like a 10 to 15 hour expansion where you just play as Ciri the whole time, using her blink powers and that totally different combat style she has. That would be the perfect way to test out mechanics for the next game without having to commit to a full release, you know? And on top of all that, there's insiders saying this might not even be like post-game stuff. It could be a lost chapter that takes place during the main story, kind of like how Hearts of Stone fit into things. That way they don't have to pick a canon ending for Geralt, which would be smart. So anyway, after people found the playlist thing, that's when the community really went full detective mode. Like, yeah, there's been rumors about a remaster or expansion floating around for a while, but nothing ever actually happened. But man, nothing gets a fan base going like a back-end update, you know? It's the most solid thing we've had to go on in months. And honestly, if they're really aiming for a May release, we should be getting a trailer like any day now. Okay, so let's talk about the tech side of things real quick. Witcher 3 runs on Red Engine 3, which they upgraded for that next gen patch. Witcher 4 is going to be on Unreal Engine 5. So this expansion, if it's real, is pretty much guaranteed to be the last hurrah for Red Engine. It's kind of bittersweet, honestly. That engine gave us one of the most gorgeous open worlds ever made, but it was also apparently a nightmare to actually work with. Like, that's basically why Cyberpunk went through development hell. So if this expansion is happening, it's probably built on that next-gen version.
Cyberpunk went through development hell because they released on last-gen consoles. Yeah, this revisionist history drives me absolutely insane. It really does. Cyberpunk came out with the stats. This is what your PC needs to run this game. Benchmark. And I benchmarked my PC, and guess what? I didn't meet it. So I had to go out and buy an SSD drive, and I got that in, got everything, and okay, now I can play Cyberpunk 2077. I didn't have a super setting, but I passed everything. And I can count on one hand the number of bugs I had, or game-breaking bugs where I had to reboot my computer. One hand and I was pre-ordered on Cyberpunk 2077. You know, if you met the hardware demands, the game ran. The game looked fantastic. PlayStation 3 and I don't even know what the Xbox was. Was it Xbox X or I don't know, honestly. So, but if you look at their hardware, they didn't even meet the minimum requirements. And you should never play one of these games on minimum requirements. You should always be above the recommended requirements. And they didn't even meet the minimum requirements. And where did all the complaints come from? The console players, because their out-of-date last-gen boxes did not meet the minimum requirements. So it's always annoyed me. How is that CD Projekt Red's fault? Other than they should have never released it on those consoles. But from what I read, that was all Xbox and PlayStation's doing. They forced it. They were told it wouldn't be a good port. They were forced. But yeah, it's like you look at the Xbox had the newer consoles out, and PlayStation didn't yet. The Xbox had that new console out, and those players said they had no problem with the game because it met their requirements. I mean, mind-blowing, huh? It's like you buy an automobile. It says you need a V8 to pull this trailer. So you got a 4-cylinder and you hook it up and it blows the engine. Well, is that your fault or is that the car's fault? Well, it's your fault. It told you needed a V8, not a V4. And that's what the Cyberpunk outrage was. Cyberpunk was a AAA game. It needed this much hardware, this much stuff. And the console players console players down here are like, why can't I run this game? Why is it always crashing? That's not fair to me. You guys are being mean to me. Quit picking on me. Drives me insane. Drives me absolutely insane.
Of the engine they used for the ray tracing update, which means it's going to look insane on PS5 and Series X. Hopefully though, they focus on making it run smooth, because we all remember how that next gen patch launched. It was a little rough, but I mean, they've had time to iron all that out by now. So yeah, according to the sources, all articles, and all the Reddit detectives out there, the files are there. The playlist is active. We just don't know when they're going to actually hit publish. But talking about when it could drop, May 2026 makes a ton of sense. That's right before Summer Game Fest kicks off, so they could totally own the news cycle before everybody else starts flooding us with trailers in June. And honestly, at this point, I don't even care if it's a small expansion. Witcher 3 is probably the best RPG of the last decade. Any excuse to jump back into that world, hear that soundtrack again, and hunt some monsters, that's a huge win in my book.
Okay, I'm going to make one caveat on what he said. I don't care if it's a small expansion either, as long as it's not priced like a large expansion. If it's 15 hours, I expect the expansion to be under $15. Simple as that. If they come out with a 15-hour expansion and they try to charge $40, $60, $80, that's what I say to them. But I firmly believe in $1 per hour for game development. Now you can give us more and we'll gladly accept it. But $1 per hour. If you're charging $80, you better have 80 hours of content in that game. If you're charging $15, then you can have 15 hours in that game of content. So to me, it'll come down to the price. If they try to pull a Bethesda and suck every little euro out of it, yeah, that's not cool, and I'll probably skip it, honestly. You know, I don't mind paying for a product, but I do mind paying for a non-product. Best way I can put it.
So VGC and a bunch of other outlets have talked about how CDPR is changing up their strategy. They want to be more flexible. They want to do parallel development. So dropping a Witcher 3 expansion in 2026 would prove they can actually walk and chew gum at the same time, you know? Like they can keep supporting an older game while still building the future stuff. But look, we gotta be careful with the hype here. CDPR has burned us before. We all remember that cyberpunk multiplayer they promised that never happened. We remember all those roadmaps that kept getting pushed back. So yeah, a playlist update is a technical smoking gun or whatever, but it's not like an official announcement. It could just be some back-end glitch. It could be them uploading like a soundtrack video or a dev diary that has nothing to do with actual new content. But I'm a big believer in where there's smoke, there's fire. And in this case, the timing feels way too specific to be random. Like right at the start of the year heading into spring, that feels on purpose. Companies don't just accidentally update playlists for their biggest franchise for no reason. One thing I'm really hoping for though, is that this expansion brings in some of those combat improvements from the mods. The PC community has been keeping this game alive with all those combat overhauls, and if CDPR can officially put some of that smoothness into the game, dude, that would be insane. And also, if they drop this, it's basically the perfect marketing for the Netflix show.
That's kind of funny, is I didn't mess with mods for The Witcher. I didn't. Like, I'm a big modder on Bethesda games. On any Bethesda game, I will run 75 to 200 mods. But Bethesda games release unfinished. Let's be honest about it. Bethesda games release 60 to 70% finished, and then they expect the modding community to fill that 30 to 40% gap that they've left unfinished. And now they're trying to profit off of that modding community, which is another video entirely, because I so disagree with that. Like, I don't mind paying modders. I belong to Nexus Mods, and when I get a mod that really improves the game for me, any game, I will make a donation to that modder. To the modder. I don't make a donation to Bethesda so they can take 50% or 60% of the donation and keep it for themselves, because it was the modder did the work. If Bethesda wants that money, maybe they should have put that into the game right off the bat, so that we didn't need the modders to come in and put them in. Just an idea. So I don't mess with CD Projekt Red games with mods, because honestly, I find them to be finished products for the most part. Like, I did not like the combat in The Witcher 3. I played it from start to finish, and all I did was use fast attack. That's it. And I upgraded the fast attack ability as I leveled, obviously, but all I did was use fast attack, and I never used strong attack or any of the other stuff. I just button mashed fast attack, and I completed the game except for bosses. In bosses, I had to actually use tactics and, different things. But for the rest of the monsters, all I did was button mash fast attack, and I went through the entire game front to finish in The Witcher 3. You could not do that in Witcher 1 and Witcher 2. It was impossible. In Witcher 1 especially, every monster had a weakness and a strength, and you had to figure out what their weaknesses and their strengths was, and then you had to change your combat to suit that monster. Witcher 2 was kind of like a hybrid between 3 and 1, where it wasn't as strict as 1, but you still had to figure out the weaknesses. Witcher 3, as I said, I just went boop, fast attack, fast attack, fast attack, fast attack, and I won. So I didn't like the combat in Witcher 3. That was the downside of the game to me. I love the graphics. I love the world. I love the writing. Like, just because I say 1 was better doesn't mean 3 was bad. 3 was right up there as one of the best. It's just I didn't like the combat. So I'm not surprised that PC gamers went out and made mods to fix the combat in The Witcher 3. And if CD Projekt Red wants to pull these in as a part of the game, all the power to them. I didn't experience them because, I didn't like the combat. I didn't think it was so ultimately terrible that I needed to go modding for it. Trying to think of an example. Yeah, I'm drawing a blank here, but like I said, Bethesda games, I'll run 75 to 200 mods on those games because they're incomplete games. The CD Projekt Red does not put out incomplete games. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. So I'm less inclined to go look at the modding community for CD Projekt Red games. But yeah, if there's a combat fix, I'm all in. I'm all in.
Or actually, more like a way to wash the taste of that show out of people's mouths. The gaming community has been pretty loud about not liking where the adaptation went, so CDPR coming out with a killer expansion is like a total power move. Like, this is the real Witcher. This is how you do it. So when can we actually see a trailer? If May is really the target, they gotta start marketing soon. February or March would be the absolute latest they could drop a teaser if they want to build up hype for a May launch. And honestly, let's be honest, 2026 is looking like a weird year for gaming. We're in that awkward spot between console generations with new hardware probably coming and GTA 6 just looming over everything. A really solid single-player expansion for a game everybody loves is exactly the kind of comfort food the industry needs right now. So yeah, I'm hoping we get an announcement this month, but if not, then maybe a summer reveal for a holiday release. But personally, I'm believing the clues. I think the playlist update is the sign we've been waiting for. But anyway, that's gonna wrap it up for this video, guys. Drop your thoughts in the comments. You think we're actually getting a new expansion, or is this just some back-end glitch? And if it is real, do you want to play as Geralt again, or are you ready for Ciri? Let me know down below. Like the video, subscribe if you're not already, and until next time, I'll catch you guys in the next one.
So there you go. Like I said, it was rumor. It wasn't fact. It's rumor, and you can take from what you want from it. But I really hope it's true. I really do hope it's true that they're coming out with an expansion. And I would accept a small expansion, but I hope it's a big expansion. Like, they don't have to recreate the wheel here. As he said, it would be the Red Engine. They have all that down pat. They have all the environments. They have everything. So it's not like they're starting from scratch. It's more copy and paste than anything else. It'll be about the writing more than anything else. So yeah, I hope they come out with an expansion. And if they do, I will, depending on the price. The price will be the one that causes me not to play it at start. But more than likely, I will pick it up and I will play it. And I'll even say it right now, I'll probably love it. Because CD Projekt Red their games have not done me wrong. Their forums are a different story. I won't even step foot into that cesspool that they call forums nowadays. But their games have not done me wrong. I love The Witcher 1. I love The Witcher 2. I love The Witcher 3. I love Cyberpunk 2077. Now, they're not perfect. Every game has its fault. But overall, I still believe in that company, And if they want to come out with a third expansion for that game, especially, he's right, like The Witcher 4 is probably not coming out until, I'm going to say 2028 at the earliest. Not even 2027, 2028. So yeah, it would make perfect sense to come out. And the Cyberpunk will probably be 2029 at the earliest. So And the other thing is, he didn't mention it here, but the other thing about the Witcher 4 is CD Projekt Red has said they want to come out with 4, 5, 6, because it's going to be a trilogy, not just a single standalone game. They want 4, 5, 6 all to come out within 6 years. So if it comes out in 2020, let's say 2028, that means by 2034, all 3 games will have come out. So it just makes sense to have that little one standalone bridge in between everything. And it brings in money for them, which is also very true. Listening to this video, you know, I've played The Witcher 3 more times than I can count. I never got the finish where Ciri was a Witcher. Never got it once. But I've also said, you know, I don't think she needs to be a Witcher. And I think, like I said earlier, I think making her a Witcher will have a blowback, because think about it. She's trained by Witchers, so she knows how to fight. And we saw that in The Witcher 3. Like, I thoroughly enjoyed the moments with Ciri when you're playing Ciri. I absolutely enjoyed them. I didn't mind them at all. So she knows how to fight. So you already got the sword play. You don't have to make her a Witcher to have the sword play. And she's got magic from the Last Hunt and from Yennefer and Triss. So she doesn't need sigils from The Witcher, the signs, because she's got magic. So there's absolutely no reason to make her a Witcher. She can be a fighter magic user in D&D terms. And she can be just as powerful as Geralt was, just as powerful as any Witcher was. It really seems to me they want to make her a Witcher because it makes her a Witcher. Not because it improves the game or anything like that. It makes her a Witcher because Sapkowski had the nerve to say only boys could be Witcher. And yeah, it's back to the activism crap. You know, I have no problem playing Ciri as the main character in 4, 5, and 6. No problem at all. You know, it's like Knights of the Old Republic. I played the male Revan and the female Revan. Knights of the Old Republic 2. I played the male exile and the female exile. I have no problem playing a female character, but make it make sense. That's my only condition, is make it make sense. And making Ciri a Witcher makes no sense to me. But we'll see what they come up with. I hope there is an expansion. I really do. And yeah, because I was hoping The Expanse would come out this year, but apparently it's not. So we need something for this year. All right. So anyway, that's the video for today. What did you think of that? If you enjoyed this video, leave a like, a subscribe, and a share. I'm trying to grow my channel, and a like, a subscribe, and a share does me wonders, and I do appreciate it. It takes 1 second to subscribe, costs you absolutely nothing, helps me immensely. Just hit the subscribe button on the bottom of the screen. If you're watching this on Rumble, please follow my channel. Always feel free to leave a comment. Please come in the comments. Tell me, what do you think? What's your reaction to this? What do you hope for? Do you think this is real? Do you think this is fake? Do you think somebody's just reading too much into it? Are the tinfoil hats too tight? Come in and tell me. Also, leaving a comment really does help me with the YouTube algorithm and getting more eyes on my videos. And God, do I need help with that. And as always, pew, 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 and shit. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye.